I'll try and multitask. Good evening, everyone. If we could start the meeting with a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. Can we stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Swager,
Here.
Mr. Benton,
Here.
Mrs. Booher, here, Mrs. Thomas, here.
Mrs. Davis won't be here today. She apologized. She called this afternoon and said she got pulled away for work, but she will watch the broadcast afterwards, she said.
Excellent. Thank you. Reading of the notice.
This is a public meeting of the Board of Education for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There's a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. Upon request of the superintendent, the district shall make reasonable accommodation for a person with a disability to be able to participate in this activity. Recording shall be made of each meeting of the board as an administrative aid and shall be preserved as public documents of the board.
Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No, we do not have any.
Do we have to pull the one out, or are we going to do that in the
No,
portion? of the-
it's actually already its own resolution.
Separate.
So we
Okay.
don't have to separate it from consent.
Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
No motion.
And can I get a second?
Second.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Booher,
Yes.
Mr. Benton,
Yes.
Mr. Swager.
Yes. And on to any public remarks? No? Okay. On to presentation.
So our first presentation tonight we call the District Spotlight. It's a little bit of a euphemism, but it's actually Board Member Appreciation Month, and we have some people in the audience who would like to share a little bit about, what we're doing as a school district. Obviously, school board members do an awful lot to help shape the educational program, and throughout the state of Ohio, January is the month we recognize school board members. Last year, we started with a little bit of a new idea, and that was to actually show you a little bit. We can send you or give you all kinds of information and certainly appreciate everything you do. But I think it also is great to see the student program part of it. As we get started, though, first, we have a bit of surprise. I want to ask Mr. Mark Bobo to come up. And I think he's from the Ohio School Boards Association. We have a mic up here. He wants to recognize one of our board members for special time served.
Thank you. Time served. I like that. Good evening. My name is Mark Bobo, and it's a privilege to be here tonight. Before I go into my official remarks, I have to say it was good to see some good friends as I walked into the room. Dr. Wagner has been a blessing to my family on a very personal level. It's through his leadership that my wife got an opportunity to serve in her calling of being a teacher. So I'm always indebted to Dr. Wagner and appreciate always all the work that he's done. And certainly Mrs. Angel King is here, and she was she's somewhere around. Oh, there she is. Yeah. She served as my son's principal, and she encouraged him to continue to do some great things. So just good to see them. And I try not to be jealous when I'm in their presence, but we're certainly thankful for the work they did here in Licking Heights. But tonight I am here to honor the work of the school board members. The responsibility is placed on men and women across America to serve on school boards. And oftentimes this responsibility is exemplified by the leadership that we're seeing here tonight. I want to thank each of you as board members for your leadership and your care and dedication to your communities. I would go ahead and assume that you did not do this work for the huge paycheck, but I would say that you all love your communities and have been dedicated to your community. As Dr. Wagner did share, this is School Board Appreciation Month, and I know you're not in it for the thank yous, but we want you to know as your association, we certainly appreciate your willingness to serve and your commitment to the community. The community is better because you all have chosen to serve in this capacity. We want you to know also as your association, we appreciate the opportunity to serve with you. We realize that your membership with the association is not just a rubber stamp, but we certainly appreciate the opportunity to serve you and help you in your leadership capacities. And more specifically tonight, we do want to honor Mr. Tim Swager. for his 10 years of board service. I often say this as I go to board meetings across the state. If you can make it through 1 year board service, you're a champion, but 10, that's amazing. But we want you to know tonight that we certainly honor you and appreciate your work here in the Johnstown Local School District. And we want to give you a round of applause and a certificate for your board leadership.
Thank you.
And again, board members and Dr. Widener, thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight. Sincerely, if we can be of any assistance to you, please don't hesitate to let us know. And we look forward to working with you in the continued future. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you. And board members, I have also for all of you actually a certificate of appreciation, which I'll hand out next. And then while I do that, we also wanted to talk and show you a little bit about the student programs, right? So we're going to start with the high school and we're going to work backwards to our elementary school. So Mrs. King, if you want to kick us off and show us some of the work that the board has authorized thus far and some of the fruits of the labor.
Thank you. We have representatives here from our new STEAM classroom. We started 2 sections of STEAM here with the second semester. And I'm going to let the kids talk so that I can also grab their banner. But please keep in mind, they're both freshmen, so we get to have them for the next 4 years to make and create amazing things.
Hello, my name is Elijah Bias, and I am a 9th grader at Johnstown Monroe High School.
My name is Kennedy Miller Knight, and I'm also a 9th grader at Johnstown Monroe High School.
We are currently both enrolled in the STEAM program at Johnstown Monroe High School. And today we would just like to talk a little bit about what we do and what it's mainly about. During the program, right now we are currently creating window covers for the Johnstown cafeteria at the high school. And some of the things that we will be working on is stuff for school spirit, games, any like kind of poster, banner, anything like that. And
Here are some of the things that we have been working on. We will be making the clear signs for like directions around the high school, signs for the cheerleaders, for people in band, and plenty of other sports. Thank you.
Thank you.
They do have just a few. They do have something for each of the board members that was made there in the lab. So it's some of the first products because we're just in the 3rd week. So
Thank you for coming. This is amazing. Oh my goodness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So is that vinyl applied or on the banners?
Is this laser?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This one's laser.
So do you cut that vinyl and then you lay it on the banner itself?
I'll take one for Mrs. Davis because she's not going to be here tonight.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Actually, now everyone's going to be very jealous. These are laser coasters with the Johnny new branding on it. Very nice.
the protectors for,
Yeah, they
for your tables. Very nice. They thought of everything.
very nice.
Very nice. Thank you so much. It's very nice.
Well, that's
Excellent. Thank you.
That's the high school, so there's more to come here. Mrs. Almendinger's here, and she's going to announce about the middle school.
Good evening. I'd like to thank Dr. Wagner and Mrs. Drummy and the Board of Education for the opportunity to share some of the exciting things happening at Johnstown. As I look at those banners and as we redesign our STEAM Center, I'm thinking maybe one of those will look really, really nice on the wall behind the Cuomo board. So some things that we want to share. JMS is focusing on engagement. So last year, Dr. Wagner utilized his experience from his past school and his resources so that Johnstown could participate in the Ohio AIPL, which stands for Advanced Inclusive Principal Leadership Initiative. It's a 2-year program that focuses on professional learning for building leadership to master strategies to increase student engagement. So we're focused on student engagement. And we're doing all of this through the Ohio AIPL. Last year, we met monthly. Dr. Wagner, Debbie Seibel, myself, and Elisa Zink met monthly. And then we did an end of the year meeting with them. And then this year, we don't meet quite as much, but we'll have an end of the year meeting also, and it will be complete. So with IAPL, this is kind of small, but really what they look at is how does the teacher, the student, and the content intersect. And if they do so effectively, then engagement increases. And as a building, we're focusing on building relationships with students, providing clarity when it comes to content and expectations, and then inviting the challenge and teaching students to lean into the challenge and to learn from the challenge. As a staff, and those are the three highlights. As a staff, we are doing a book study together called Engagement by Design by Fisher and Fry. And we are focusing, we did one professional growth goal together as a staff, all focused on engagement. So one of the places where we are seeing greater areas of engagement is in our math classrooms. We have a new math curriculum this year, the Reveal curriculum. We're seeing greater engagement in that area. And to share some of that engagement with you, I'd like to introduce you to Lisa Allen. She's one of our district math coaches, and she's going to take you through an activity.
So thank you for having me this evening. Like Mr. mentioned, I'm going to do an engagement activity with all of our board members. So here you go. And you get to play as well. So you're at the head team. And you as well. And here you are. So what I would like to do is not scare anyone with this engagement activity. The front side of the worksheet, I just wanted to show you what our students would experience in a math class. So you can see there's a 6th grade problem from Reveal and a 7th grade math problem and an 8th grade math problem from Reveal. And then in the bottom right corner, you may not be aware, but today we administered the AMC 8 mathematics contest, the national math contest. And we let our advanced math students participate in that today, and we'll have some results the coming week. It's something new and part of our math focus curriculum. So I'm not going to have the board do the math problem, but if the board would please go ahead and flip to the back. And I think Mrs. Almenara has these questions on the screen so everybody can see what those mean. So one of the hallmarks of the Reveal curriculum is this turn and talk idea. Talk about it. So we encourage you to talk to those that are sitting around you to answer the questions. The first question: what is the county seat of Licking County? So go ahead and get your answer on your paper. Go ahead and put that there. You can talk about it out here in the body. And then I'll give the answers at the end. Is everything all right? All right. Second question: what is the mascot for the Johnstown Monroe local schools? Again, turn and talk if you need to. And this is what our students would be doing, but it would be the math problems on the front and now. All right, the third question, I think they're quick learners. They're ready for our third question. What is the name of the math curriculum currently used at Johnstown Middle School?
She just cheated and gave it to
Now,
us.
wait a minute. This is all here mentioned it. Also, we encourage our students to utilize, maybe some context clues.
Yeah.
Okay, turn it off if you need to. And then, when you're ready, Ms. Almendinger, they're ready. Which group of people are being celebrated this month for their contributions to students across the country? If you're not sure, turn it on. All right. If you're ready, I'll show you how we make this engaging. So you can imagine these were math problems, and we could have students sit and they could just do these problems, and we give them the answers, and they could move on, and many of them be miserable. But the way that we're turning this to engagement is, you can flip to the back and figure out how many you got right. I'm guessing you all got all 4. What we want you to do is you're going to get up from your seat, all of you, and I need to go activate the pen up there. But for each one that you got right, you're going to put your initials in one of those boxes. So you'll pick your favorite 4 numbers and you'll put your initials in there. And then when everybody has their initials, we're going to pull up a random integer generator and we're going to pick a winner. So whoever's on the right square. But for now, figure out how many you got right on the back side, just on the back.
Mrs. Thomas, go ahead and get us started.
And you can all feel free to go right now if you want.
I think we all got.
This is middle school, so they can all be up there all right now. I know, I have the answers for you because
I'm a chemical engineer, right?
So I have the answers for you.
There. These are the big prize.
Yeah. Haven't used this one. Have you used this one before?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So engaging.
We do.
In my office, can't afford They don't send.
And I did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, these are.
We have
Yeah.
several, I
And
guess
the window coverings too.
Yeah.
So, I've been asked a couple times, what is the county seat of Licking County? And
York.
The Johnstown mascot, we are all Johnstown Johnnies. The curriculum name is Reveal. Had a problem. And we are celebrating our school board members. Thank you very much. So what we would do, the students would all be up there putting their initials on, and then we will have Ms. Paula Digger pull up our random integer generator. The kids do love this. A lot of them haven't seen something like this.
That's okay.
Okay. There we go. Now this is Price is Right. So Price is Right. So you have it's the closest without going over.
We
Okay.
tell the kids that, and they don't know what that is. So we're teaching them about the Price is Right.
Showing our age.
Price is Right scoring.
So the number is 50.
Okay, and number 50, no one picked, so the closest
47.
without going over is
47.
I can't read that from here. Who
Sound like
picked
That looks like Alan Benton to me.
Was it Alan Benton?
Alan
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Wow, candy. Exactly what I need for my diet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, you know.
Congratulations.
I know. Chris is always the one with all the candy.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I think just again, we just want to thank you, Dr. Wagner, Mrs. Drummy and the board for giving us these opportunities. And we want you to know that we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, Mr. Jagger has a presentation on behalf of the intermediate school.
It's even better. Yeah. Technology wizard over here. School board, thank you for all your support in Johnstown Intermediate School this year. The high school and middle school focused on the academic side of things. We're going co-curricular at the JIS, and we're really focusing on traditions. One of the traditions that you approved this year, everybody talks about, is fifth grade camp at the end of the school year. So that's continuing this year. And another tradition that dates back to 2009, I believe, right? 2009 is Battle of the Books. And Battle of the Books, I didn't write this, but Battle of the Books is a voluntary reading incentive program in which students read from a list of 40 books over several months and then come together in teams made up of several students to test their knowledge of the books. The battles are games in which teams of students earn points by correctly identifying book titles based on clues about character, setting, plot, etc. Teams also receive points by correctly identifying the author of the book. The teams will play several rounds, and then at the end, points are totaled to find a winning team. It's a really fun and exciting time for students. It's happening in May, and the final competition is going to be at the Performing Arts Center this May. We also want to give a shout out to the Mary E. Babcock Foundation, who's again sponsoring this program. They provide funds for purchasing books, team t-shirts, medals, and certificates. So I think that also speaks volumes with what our board does, that community members still want to give over and over to these types of things. If we didn't have the support from our school board in these things, that type of stuff wouldn't happen. So today we want to give the board members a taste of Battle of the Books by competing with our students. Now, the board members have not read these books. Okay, they may have. We don't know if they have. They may not have read these books, and they may have been read a long time ago. So we're going to have the students help them. So students from JIS, head on up to your board members, and then Miss Drummy, I'm going to have you scoot over with Mr. Benton. You're going to be on that team. And then Mr. Swager and Dr. Wagner are going to be on a team. Then Miss Thomas and Mrs. Boer, you'll also be on a team with our students. And then Mrs. Clark is going to take us through a round. We're going to play one round. This is multiple rounds usually, but we're going to play one round and 3 questions per round. So feel free to work with your students. Mrs. Clark.
Try to pick some books that are some favorites from today, but even maybe some from a few years ago as well. So, nobody has heard any questions. Okay, so.
Good. Okay, so engaging, just like the middle school was about engagement. Here we go. So round 1, this will go to our first team. Wait to be first team here. That would be, yep, there we go. All right. In what book are boys sent to Camp Green Lake as consequences for behaviors and warned to avoid yellow-spotted lizards?
Wolf by Lou Sacher.
Okay, so if we were keeping score, that would be 5 points for the title and 3 points for the correct author. All right. Wait, am I playing 3 in a row for them or like what? Okay, let's go. Let's keep everybody involved. We're going to go to team 2. Wave to me, team 2. There we go. Team 2. In which book do we meet Carly, Harvey, and Thomas J? They're 3 unrelated kids who were sent to live in a foster home because home life was not suitable. Oh no.
What if we don't? What if we're not sure? Do we?
You
can
can
someone-
make a good guess.
That's a different game.
Do you have a guess over there in one? I just heard it. I saw nothing.
We were talking. That's like phone a friend, right? Isn't that yeah.
That was a charade. That was just clues. All right. So that is pinballs. Anybody have the author for pinball?
I
Betsy.
think our first team
Double
was,
B's.
Steele. I'm not sure if they're allowed to do it.
In the real battle, we would allow steals, but it would go to team 3, actually.
Oh.
Betsy Byers would be the author for that one. Yeah, that one. Okay, team 3. All right, team 3. In what book does a magical character almost fall to the ground during his first game of Quidditch?
Harry Potter.
And the author?
J.K. Rowling.
Here we go. Okay. Nice job, team 3. Okay, back to team 1. We're going to keep it moving. Back to team 1. In what book is a character very attached to an astronaut helmet when his father throws it away because his son was using... Oh. Yes. I guess he knows that one. Do you have the author? Oh, wait, no. Hold on. I said it wrong. Okay, thank you, fifth grade. Another help out there. Okay, team 2. This is your comeback. I can feel it. All right. In what book is there a silverback gorilla living in the Big Top Mall? Yes? Anybody have a author?
You'd say Margaret, maybe?
Or Catherine, somebody? That would be it. Applegate. Very good. All right, team 3. In what book do we meet characters who enter a factory with unbelievable sights, sounds, and smells after finding a golden ticket?
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
That is correct. And the book that came before the movie was the author. Anybody?
It was not Gene Wong.
No.
Would be Roald Dahl. That sounds familiar. All right. Okay. And final question, final round. Oops, over here. In what book do characters? Oh, I just said that one. In what book do 2 mice visit Bannock Hill without permission and are attacked?
Floppy.
Yes. 3-letter author. 3. Avi. That would be Avi. Very good. All right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, team 1. All right, team 2. Team 2. All right. What did I not read? In what book do 4 siblings playing a game of hide and seek find themselves entering a strange and mysterious land where animals talk, the trees are always listening,
Narnia.
and a
The Chronicles of Narnia.
yes. What is?
Sorry.
It's the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Is it the Lion in the Wardrobe? Am I supposed to be more specific?
The
It's
Lion.
the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
That's what I said. Hey, you guys had all the easy. This team over here had all the easy ones. We're just happy to answer questions.
We'll give it to you. Yes, that
How about
is.
C.S. Lewis?
Yes, very good.
Well, that was an easy one.
Okay. All right, and finally, in one book is a girl sent to live with her hillbilly aunt and uncle in North Carolina, where she befriends a boy named Howard, who is her backpack buddy. That is Wish. And the author? Anybody, the author? That would be O'Connor, yes. Very good.
All right, thank you. As you can see, people get very excited around reading and books. Dr. Wagner was probably the most excited when he actually got an answer. So it's fun for all ages, and board members, I would like to say a sincere thank you for allowing us to continue these traditions that we have here. You know, as we grow, I think it's important to stay with our traditional roots and stay with our traditions. So we appreciate that support. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks to the students. I saw 3 movies but didn't read any of the books. I've seen Holes 100 times at this point.
And then lastly, we have the elementary school. So Amanda Douglas is going to lead that for us.
Hi, and thank you for letting us talk tonight. So I am here with Johnstown Elementary. I'm Amanda Douglas, the Dean of Students. We're going to talk to you about Reveal Math, and it's more than just the facts. It's what our students engage in every day. So Reveal is more than just the math program. Our students learn how to collaborate with one another, how to communicate, and also solve. So here are some of the pictures of our students doing some of those things in the classroom. You have kindergartners playing bowling with subtraction. and then some of our other students learning different things throughout the building. We would also like to thank you for the role of the coach, not only at the elementary and intermediate, but also at the middle school. The coach, Julie Metelko, is amazing resource for all of us in the building. She gives us the opportunity for professional development, that individualized support to each of our teachers, improved instructional practices, the increased confidence for our teachers. They're able to go to her, get that instruction, and then take it back to our students, that professional growth, and then the improved student learning. So, and coaching is an essential component of an effective professional program. So today we have Mrs. Hill here today to walk you through the beginning part of a second grade math lesson.
Hi, my name is Leanne Hill. I've been teaching for Johnstown for 23 years, so I've been around. I've seen the difference, how it was and how it is now. First of all, I'd like to thank you personally because my dad was a school board member, and I know what the stress is that you guys have with making sure that the buildings and everything run smoothly. So thank you. And also, I would really like to thank you. Our school would like to thank you for the materials that you bought for us for the Reveal Math with all of the hands-on curriculum, and also allowing Julie Metelko to be our math coach. She has been an amazing asset to our building, with it being from, she's always there in our team meetings. She answers questions and clarifies things. She is there for our unit internalizations where we actually go through each unit, and we start with the test at the end, and she helps us determine how to plan what we need to focus on, how many days a lesson is, and it's been amazing. So thank you for giving her to us and JIS. So this is a day in the life of second grade student. First, we start off with a number routine. It usually starts with a pattern or a number talk, and it also encompasses mental math strategies. So for example, just recently we had a number routine that was estimate 24 plus 56. What do you think the answer is going to be? They wanted to solve it right away, but we had to break it down and say, wait, let's think about the tens, think about the ones. How would you estimate that? So it led to a lot of great discussions with the second grade students. And then we have a Be Curious page, which these kiddos up front have been dying to do it with you. They are so excited. That's going to come up. That is part of the engagement to each lesson. Each lesson has a Be Curious page to it. Then we go and we have a lesson. It's either a guided activity or it's a guided or activity based where the teacher decides what is the best for that day. If it's activity based, we get all of those math manipulatives out and we play with them. If it's a guided, we look at the problem and we break it apart and we turn and talk about each of those problems. Then we go on and we have an on your own page where they do, we've been doing it more recently together because this is the first year of this program. So we've been talking about each of those problems. Then we have a spiral review and an exit ticket. The spiral reviews are amazing. They do a great job with telling me what they still know and what I still may need to go back and teach. The Reveal also offers differentiation pages, reteach videos and activities, and then we can have review and extension pages and activities as well. So, are you ready? All right, they are so ready. How do I get back?
I get two.
Hey, guys.
Special. Hey, I'm special. I get two.
Oh,
Man.
you get a friend.
Thank you.
All right, so this Be Curious page, this gets the students involved, and it's right before this would be the first day of teaching this student, which is money and time. So what we do is we sit on the carpet and we turn and talk to our partners. Tell me everything you can about what you see on the board.
points do you see? Right. Do we talk about you know, the difference? Right. So how about a quarter? Perfect. How about a dime? In the next
Okay, about 10 more seconds.
Okay. Yeah, we supposed to, when you do this, just to, we go color different. No colors, just on size, numbers. Okay.
Tell me something you know. Tell me something, everything you can. Give me one thing. I'll go around the table. Woo.
What do you
It
say?
all equals E. All right, keep going. There's 8 coins. There's 8. This is where I get also have a pointer and they love to come up. Then there's 8 coins in all. Six silver. There's 6 silver. Okay, and again, this is the first lesson. They have not seen money yet. So, all right, Oscar. They all equal a different value. There's different values up there. The math term is everything we're talking about. Good job. Well, the top is heads and the bottom is tails. Reading. And this could go on and on and on and on. And usually I say, okay, guys, do it back to the they love this part of the movie. So thank you so much for so much for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you for helping me out. That's really inspiring. You know, time.
Good job.
And then just there are some highlights of what the curriculum also offers. Family letter that goes home before each student, so the family members are involved and they see what their child is learning. They also have activities at home that they can do. So, oh, sorry. I'm a teacher. I have a. So yeah, we have a family letter that they is sent home, and then we have a at home extension activities that they can do as well. And then we have some pictures of the students doing those in the classroom. Do you have any questions about Reveal Math and what we're doing in second grade?
I don't necessarily have any questions. I just want to thank everyone. As a board member, these are the fun portions of being a board member. We don't normally get to see the students actually in their, curriculum learning. We talk about curriculum, we talk with the administrative team, and obviously we work hard on curriculum, but we never actually get to see it come back. So we really do. I know as a board, we get excited when we get the students to come in and do stuff like this. So I do thank all the different schools for bringing the kids in. It's really enjoyable. So thank you.
I was impressed with the questions that they already asked about money. Being able to
It's
values that you use.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, again, we haven't taught money yet, so just obviously we have different background knowledges and we work with them and where they need to be. But just the different kinds of talking. That didn't necessarily have to be about the money or the value. It could be about, hey, I see 6 silver coins and I see 2 copper. So it's just getting them to really look at those pictures.
We're so excited that we talked to Seth. I said, you like math? He said,
Yep.
very good.
thank you, elementary. Thank you, Mrs. Hill and
Thank
Mrs.
Thank you.
I echo you too.
What's that?
This was very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was nice to see all the different groups from the different schools. Appreciate it.
Well, you get to get into a class here and there, but you don't actually get to see the whole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they love it.
If you're ready, can we transition?
Yep.
Okay. I wanted to just do a high-level overview. I know the board's familiar with a lot of our activities that we've been engaged with, but I wanted to highlight a couple things and tell you mid-year where the schools are. I'm going to go in greater depth and present this to City Council early next month. I've talked to Mayor Barnard about that already, so we'll get that scheduled. So it's always good to talk about what we're doing with the schools. So if you go to the slide, I just want to hit some of the highlights on this. So one of the things that we wanted to focus on, and Mr. Schwager, you talked about curriculum instruction, teaching and learning. I want to talk about the state report card and some things we've seen already this year. And both our middle school and high school earned a 4-star on the Ohio report card ratings, and the intermediate and earned a 4.5 stars, and the elementary 5 stars. Obviously, we've had a strong focus on math. We just talked about that a bit. Math has been something that we really started on with the curriculum committee last year, and then obviously went through an expedited process and adopted math curriculum, and you see some of the fruition of that today. Wanted to also talk about some of the sponsorship and programs we've had. Earlier in the year, we recognized that we received $300,000 from Meta, and then we've also recently received in December $250,000 from Intel. Both of these have impacted our STEAM program, and will so in the foreseeable future. And you see a little bit of that today with the high school, with their lab, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a few minutes here. And then we also want to highlight we have a strong partnership with CTEC, and I think we've talked about that recently too, and some of the programs we have coming forward there. In the STEAM labs, back to that, we opened the elementary STEAM lab in August, and then that's part of the public-private partnership. And then we actually have the other STEAM labs that are coming online now. We're ordering some things. Some things have been back ordered actually. And we're going to have a ribbon cutting for the high school, and that'll be on February 26th. We'll make that a combination date there of recognizing our education and workforce forum that we're going to do for the community. And then earlier in the day, we're going to do the ribbon cutting, or earlier in the afternoon, I should say, we'll do the ribbon cutting for the high schools. We'll be able to officially open that, although we're starting to use the equipment now. Mr. McDonald has been working with Lieutenant Governor's office, and I think there's a chance that he may be able to meet with us and join us for that event, but I'll keep the board updated. One of the other things that's significant this year is we had some administrative changes. So we welcomed 3 new principals. Robin Wagner is a principal at the elementary. Mr. Jagger here for the intermediate, and then Mrs. King for the high school. And I know Mrs. Almendinger has been here for some time, but I really do like how well the team works together, because when you have someone established and then we bring in new people, so we've had a really healthy team. We made some change administratively, so Mrs. Seibel is now focused on as the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Technology, and Mr. Busenberg moved into the role of Director of Operations. When we talk about some of the facility plans, we relocated the board office, as you're aware, early in the school year, late in the summer. That was somewhat of a necessity. The building was certainly not holding up to commercial application, and then when we had the water problems, we realized there was going to be significant investment there, so we moved the office temporarily to the intermediate school. As we look into the future, some of the highlights we have, we're focusing on science, and for those on the curriculum committee, that's a significant focus for us this year. We'll really be looking at more of the 412 for science, and then we are going to look a little bit at the English language arts for K-3. Initially, we had talked about not focusing on K-3 ELA this year. We're going to wait to see what the state does with the science of reading, but we changed that a bit because there are some requirements coming, and we expect this month the state will have more information, so that'll allow us to move forward with the ELA program. I've already talked about the math, so I don't need to repeat that. From a construction standpoint, we're getting ready with high school addition. We'll have a meeting about that later in the week with a couple of board members, and getting ready for that 6th classroom addition. And then part of that work will be also staging for a new board office. We want some input from the board on that, most likely in the same site of where it was. This is an example of our growth, and these are all based on projections. I know the board has seen this in the past, but you can see our 2023 data and where we're projected to move forward. You know, I always stress that this is pre-Intel. We still don't know all the implications of what's going to happen from a housing standpoint. Right now, we have one active development, and there's some turnover of existing homes. Today, Mrs. Lowe was telling me we had actually 6 families come into the district just in one day here. So that's significant when she's involved with 6 families in enrollment. So, you know, we'll keep the board updated, but we're planning for this with growth in enrollment we expected. One of the things we do share on that is we know that we haven't grown as fast as we've expected, and that's really because we've experienced some demolition of existing homes for some of the economic development projects. So we believe we've lost over 60 homes within the school district already. And then even though we have some new homes coming in, you know, it's keeping us about level right now. Another focus of what we accomplished this year, and this started in the previous year, is our compensation agreements. So the one we did settle with the city of Johnstown is we have our compensation agreement in place with them. And what that basically does is it allows the city now, if they have a prospective employer coming in that wants to start a business here, that they can negotiate and they know what the support and the parameters are, including what the schools, their involvement would be. So you can see we have highlighted there. The model is largely based on the New Albany model, and that's been in place for about 25 years. That's impacted some area school districts, including Johnstown Monroe, because we have a park and the beauty park. The model's a bit different for Johnstown because of the split difference here, and you can see it's 27.5% for the schools and 72.5% for the city. Different split than we have in New Albany, but there's also infrastructure differences that make up that. And I always tell people that to explain this is an income-based model, so we actually need the businesses here. They need to be operational and functioning for some time, and then we'll see how those monies then generate for the city and for the schools. Our next step when we started some of the preliminary work is to look at compensation agreements with our area townships. So we're focused on Monroe, Liberty, and Jersey, and those will be our next efforts. We've already met with Jersey Township, and then we'll be looking at the other 2 and continuing to work with Monroe. We also have an economic development incentives agreement, which is a separate agreement, often confused with the compensation agreement with the city of Johnstown. But what that is that allows us to take an actual project and objectify the compensation agreement. So we have a separate one now with the city that includes the city of Johnstown, also New Albany companies involved with that, and that is the mixed-use property that we're familiar with, over 400 acres. As we think about growth and how we're moving forward, the board has spent a lot of time this year focused on strategic facility planning. Obviously, we've looked a lot at how we're going to manage growth and the impact on the school district. And I always tell people the most important aspect of this work is really looking at land usage. That's what we need to really hone in on, because anytime there's a parcel of land and it turns over in some form of development, we need to know what that development is. Is it commercial? Is it residential? What type of, if it's some form of housing, we need to know. We need to make sure beyond just residential, sometimes there could be apartments. So that's a lot of our singular work. We've worked backwards in the strategic effort, and we tried to cap the district at just about 4,600 students. And as we worked on that, what that would require is that we would have to add the addition to the high school, which I previously mentioned. That'll max out that building at 6 classrooms. The longer term, we don't know what the timeline is in the longer term yet, but we expect it to be 10 plus years. But longer term, that we know we'll need a new high school, and then we'll have to reconfigure the district. And when we do that, the current high school will become the middle school. And then eventually we'll need a new elementary school, and then we'll reconfigure that as well too. And we'll see how we're going to service elementary through intermediate. as I said, we'll do the 6 school buildings. That'll be our end in terms of our objective, and then we'll service all the students within those grade levels. The idea would be to try to keep the high school in and around this campus, the elementary school maybe off-site, kind of similar to JES, and that would be then likely to be closer to a potential housing development. So we have some community partnerships. We've mentioned some of those already. So we had some pictures here just to back up. There we go. So obviously we have Meta, and we do appreciate the role of the Chamber of Commerce in Johnstown. Been working closely with Intel, more work to come there. And then just having some opportunities to take students and travel to different locations, especially focused on STEAM. The picture there in the top right is when Meta focused on STEAM at COSI and actually reserved part of the building. Intel is going to look at a similar event for us at the high school, and tentatively we may take the entire high school to COSI, and either a half day or a day, and we're working on that right now, and that'll all be sponsored by Intel, and they'll have some specific events for that. But they felt like at Intel they really wanted to work on our high school because we had some opportunities to focus in more of the elementary and middle school grades. The bottom left corner there is just to highlight that our partnership with CTEC continues to grow. As we have more and more development in the area, we know that we're going to focus more on workforce, and a strong part of that partnership will be CTEC as well as our community colleges and our universities as well. The next 2 pictures are community members, so we have Mayor Barnard there and our police, so we appreciate them coming into the schools and certainly have that back and forth relationship. And that's really just a high-level overview on where we are with the schools this year that we're focused on. Any questions or thoughts?
Anyone?
You
Yeah.
haven't seen it actually in the slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to note, when we talk about a new high school, even when we make the decision, we're still 4 to 5 years design, build, and open.
Yeah.
So for the folks out there, even when we get to that number, it's not something that can happen quickly. So we have to first acquire land. Then once we get land, then design it, build it. So it's not anything that's happening soon, but it's prudent of this board to continue to look for it, because we do know growth will eventually come. So the focus again is one high school and no more than one high school, and this is how we can accomplish that.
The other thing that we've heard from the board as we work on it strategically is trying to manage the cost of all these projects and seeing what we can do with these. These economic development projects are great, but then in some cases, but also the agreements that we have and how we can use those agreements to build our facilities and not increase taxes. So we've heard that from the board as well too. So that's always in our forefront.
We should include our fire department as well for the community outreach. I'm sure we have some interesting up there.
Yes, that's a good point. Anything else? I'll keep you updated, but we'll go from, we did this last year as well too, so we'll go from council and I'll provide more in depth on that, and we can refine this, but wanted to just review that with you, so thank you. And that's all we have for the presentation. Oh gosh, I forgot one thing, sorry. At your desk, or at your table, I gave you a separate sheet, and it says summary and proposed changes to the program of studies. When we were talking about a curriculum instruction, I wanted to, this would be too hard to put into a slide. Just wanted you to have a high level look. Mrs. Seibel put this together. There are going to be some changes we're projecting to the program of studies. So we wanted to be able to have the board have a look at the executive summary, what those potential changes could be. And I'll just go through them real quick. All of these are really teaching and learning related, but the CTEC, we've talked about having the multi-skilled program. We're looking at a change in classes, and we'll have more to offer, but there's a math modeling and reasoning course. It'll be equal to or equivalent to an Algebra 2, but it'll be more of the functional aspect, almost like a career tech type of, and we think that'll tie in this as a multi-skilled. Engineering courses, we're going to enhance our engineering pathway. That's going to come really in 2 parts. One is the donation from Intel, that's at $250,000. We're going to be directing to that engineering pathway, but also CTEC comes into that as well too, because they are going to help sponsor part of that engineering program for us. And tonight, later in the agenda, you have a resolution on that to the board approves it for a memorandum of understanding with CTEC. Also, we talked about robotics, which ties in with that. So we're going to, we've had a strong middle school robotics program, but we'll have a clear articulation now all the way through high school with robotics. So we don't have to stop just in middle school anymore. I think if you've watched any of those Robot Wars or any aspects, those get a little bit more animated, a little more engaged in the high school. So we'll certainly use some of the Intel monies on that as well too. That'll help us tremendously in that program. The Ohio High School Athletic Association has been offering an option of an officiating course for students, and actually Mrs. King's been working on that with Mr. Brickner and others, Mrs. Seibel, and we actually should have that offered next year. What that will do is allow students, and some school districts are doing this, to help with officiating in the younger grades, 7th and 8th, and that frees up some of those coaches for the high school, so to relieve some of the burden we have right now in not finding enough coaches. Financial literacy next year, we will have that as a standalone course. That's a requirement that's forthcoming. We don't want to wait for the requirement, so that will no longer be embedded in social studies. They'll be pulled out. And there'll be a lot of functional aspects of that too, which will be exciting. We continue to work on our math articulation. I sent you some information on that. We're going to really look at how math is. We are looking at how math is organized in the school district, and you'll see more of that coming to the curricular committee and then more to the larger board. But as we move forward, our objective is to get to a calculus ABBC at our top end, and we look forward to that. In our health classes, we're going to change the delivery model and make sure that's more in person, that it kind of move to more of an online. And sometimes, the online isn't as engaging. It works for some cases, but we want to have that more in person. So that'll be something you'll see as changes coming for the next school year. And then just overall reducing some of the online offerings, have more in person. All of us know from COVID that there are some challenges with online. It can be a good tool in some cases, but we're going to try to get more in-person learning. So you'll see some change with program study. Overall, we wanted to have an objective, and Mrs. King and Mrs. Seibel have really been working on this, is this arriving early or arriving late, leaving early, really kind of look at that and see what are our goals and objectives for students and really working backwards. So I suspect you'll see less of that, probably some complaints too, quite honestly, but we think that there's more that can be achieved. We only have students for 13 years, so we want to make sure we can do everything we can to get them ready for the next stages in life. Also similar to that, we're going to look at study halls and how those are used. We just don't want those to be areas where there's put into the schedule. We want to make sure they're tied to a program. So we will expect more study halls from some of the higher end classes or the more demanding classes, and there will be some available. We're going to look at that more carefully. And then we're going to do an audit of all of our courses and enrollment numbers and look at modifications. There's some programs we're looking at that, there's been some declining enrollments. We want to make sure we do everything we can, that we're forward facing, and see if these programs really should continue for the future. So we'll work on more of that. Middle school, the program of studies is separate there, but it also feeds into the high school. So we're going to have our STEAM course there. Again, this is the supports that we have from Meta and Intel, so we'll be using some of those monies. We've already talked with Mrs. Roby, the teacher, and Family Consumer Sciences. We're going to look to minimize those offerings. We really have a declining enrollment there, and CTEC will be able to help us with it. So we are more career focused in that as well too. And then part of this is middle school, but also takes us down into the intermediate, is looking at our math curriculum again and how we're going to compact. If you think about the higher end and where we're trying to get to, in some cases we're going to have to start younger, so you'll see some of this compacting start even in 5th grade, and we'll have some different paths there as well too. Some of the changes back to the high school require some space considerations. We've already been working on that, and we're going to reorganize some of the areas within the high school so you can see what's listed there. But the multi-skilled program will move into 100 and 102. Engineering program will move into what's currently the online space. That's a nice big area that we can use. And the media center, we're going to use the front end of the media center, or the front half, if you will. Media centers are used differently now than they have been in years past, and we see less and less circulation, more and more reliance on technology. And there used to be a lab front of the media center, which will recapture that space. We really don't need a computer lab anymore. And then that'll become this, well, a lot of where the STEAM is. Plus, I think the optics will look good too because there's so much glass there, you know, and it's, Jody does a nice job keeping up that area. So we'll be able to offer both, and they still have the media center, but also the STEAM in the front. So we're still working on this, but again, just wanted you to know that this is coming. And what you'll see is we should be asking the board for approval of the program of studies at the February meeting, the first meeting in February, and then students would start enrolling shortly thereafter. So, you know, if everything goes as expected, then we could start enrolling students by mid February, and certainly the high school and middle school will be a little later than that. That'll help us get ready for the coming school year. Any questions?
Yeah,
a lot of that'll come through the curriculum committee, and we'll give updates. Okay.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
And on to the board committees, I think curriculum's the one we have the update on. Is that correct? Or do we not with Amanda being on? Were you there?
Well, quite honestly, he just gave the update.
I just want to make sure if there was anything additional.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he just really just read through the update.
Okay.
There's some great opportunities heading our way for the students, and it's an exciting time. I think our staff members are excited about these opportunities. I know it's going to come up later, but sincerely appreciate the donation of the student budget, and also to get our robotics program going at the high school. I know last year we talked to several of our middle school students who were going to ninth grade, so I'm sorry we didn't get that started sooner. They get a little bit of a gap right now, but we're going to be able to offer it next year, and I think that's great.
Excellent, thank you. I think the other committees have meetings coming up. Ruth Ann and I will be meeting with Dr. Wagner and the staff on Thursday to talk about the upcoming construction board office expansion of the high school, things of that nature. So that'll occur on Thursday. And I see we have building and grounds the following week and finance 2 weeks later. So got a few meetings coming up. That being said, if we want to move on to the consent agenda.
Yeah, I won't have an LPDC update this month either, or tonight, but then the meeting is tomorrow, so I'll have that for the next meeting. That's a committee we're reporting out on that. The consent agenda, I have resolution 24-01-018 is the approval of consent agenda.
If I can get a motion.
So,
I'll second.
Discussion.
let me go through.
Please.
Okay. Monthly finance report. Mrs. Drummy and I have been busy with a few different projects, so we're certainly keeping up on financials. And at the February work session, we'll give the board a more in-depth update. I know she's been showing you some of the back-end analysis that she does, so we'll do that. We were talking about that. We'll do that at the February work session. Board meeting minutes are captured there, as you can see. Next is food service for a resignation, and then we actually have classified employment coming next. Amy Schultze had resigned, in case you're wondering about Steph Knight. She resigned last year, and then it was at step 8, so we're bringing back this year, so we're just continuing on the break in service. So in case sometimes you want to obviously a lot. Food service substitute, here we have Catherine now coming back. It was hard for her to keep up with the full-time schedule. She certainly wants to help with substitutes, so we appreciate that. Mrs. Lowe has been doing a great job keeping up with the team on our volunteers. We have a lot of parent volunteers, and she's been doing a nice job. And as everything organized there, we're getting everybody officially approved. We're keeping good records on that, so this part of the agenda has been building, and I think it does two things. It's procedurally correct, but it also lets you see who's helping out in the school. So we certainly appreciate all that support. And that's all I have for consent, unless there's questions.
Any questions on any of this? Of course, thank the additional 20 parent volunteers on the list there. Always can't do this without some volunteers. And of course, always glad to hear that even though Catherine can't be full-time, that she's willing to come back as a sub. So that's fantastic to see. So I do appreciate that. Any other questions, comments?
I just want to comment. I've not seen the
parent volunteers listed this way before. It's really impactful. I really appreciate seeing the volume and participation.
Yeah, well, thank you. Like I said, there's procedure parts, so we are actually now taking this database and watching the background check process, and we also get updates if something changes between these time periods. So, but credit to Mrs. Lowe because she's doing all this with the team, and I just think it's important.
Thank you, Mrs. Lowe.
She gets a little shy.
I know, that's why I do
She'll
it.
talk to me tomorrow and say, "Why did you mention my
Right.
name? I just want to do the work. I don't need all this recognition." But she needs to be recognized.
Yes, I appreciate that. Anything else? Call the roll.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Mr. Benton.
Resolution 24-01-019 is facility use waiver.
If I can get a motion,
So moved.
can I get a second?
I'll second.
You know, Mr. Bennett asked me if there's a potential relationship there. Yes, he can abstain from that. B2B.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Knights of Columbus, so since we're voting on something that pertains to that, even though it's a charity event, it would be not to participate.
The group's asking for no, not to be charged any rate on this. They're not making any money. This is based on their scholarships and what they've earned in the past, and this culminating experience where they free throw and then they earn scholarships.
Do we have the flyer on that? I think
We
saw.
do, but I don't have it.
Okay.
Benefits.
Yeah, I think it was in our packet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to announce when it actually was because
January 28th.
is it January 28th?
Was it
Yes, it's on here. So January 28th, the Knights of Columbus free throw contest. They're always looking, and there's different age groups you can compete in. So they're always looking for eligible students to come on out and shoot for some free throws and try to win, advance on to the States and win some money. Any other questions on that one? Call the roll.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Benton,
Abstain.
Mr. Swager.
Yes.
Resolution 24-01-020 is an MOU with CTEC for engineering grades 9 through 12.
Can I get a motion?
No motion.
That's what I previously mentioned about the partnership with CTEC. We were planning to do this anyways to move forward, and the curriculum committee has discussed this to move forward with engineering. But CTEC is actually going to sponsor that for us, so we will not have the personnel costs, and they'll bring their expertise curriculum-wise to this, and then we'll take our public-private partnership and add to it that much more. So I'm encouraged by this, and this will help us from an FTE standpoint. Full-time equivalent, we'll have one less teacher to account for next year.
Excellent.
Very excited about opportunities should be there.
Yeah. No, I think we're all excited about this. So thank you. Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Benton,
Yes.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mr. Swager.
Yes. On to any board comments? I have none. Anyone else? All right. On to you, Dr. Wagner.
Okay, a few things to highlight. I already mentioned the February 26th. We'll keep talking about that a lot, but I sent you a calendar reminder on that. I'll let you know about the Lieutenant Governor. Again, it looks like could come for both the ribbon cutting for the high school, the STEAM lab, and then also our education workforce forum. As a reminder, that'll be open to the public. It should be at our Performing Arts Center, and then we'll be representing the western side of Licking County. So this will be a partnership with 3 school districts. It'll be Northridge, Licking Heights, and Southwest Licking schools. And this looks to be an ongoing effort. Then next year, we'll have one of the other school districts sponsor it or host it, and we'll keep going down the calendar, and then we'll come back to Johnstown. So I think that'll be important on the western side of Licking County. Wanted to call your attention also, and I'll work on this, just want to highlight it. We may have to change the work session because right now we have it scheduled on February 26th, which will be that night. It's all kind of congealing or coming together on that date. So I'll get with Mrs. Lowe, and we'll contact all of you and see if we can alter that date by a day or so. Okay. I'm going to remind or just tell you that it's hard to believe, but we are turning the page for next school year already. I mean, program of studies are starting, but also we can't forget our kindergartners. So soon you'll hear about kindergarten registration, that we're going to get ready with that. We'll talk about what the actual process is on that, because Mrs. Wagner is looking at some different options, some ways we can enhance the program. But in the meantime, I'll keep you updated, but in case you hear anything, it should be coming out sometime this month to talk about kindergarten registration and what our dates will be on that. Similarly with planning fireworks, fireworks committee is already getting ready. They're looking at July 5th, it's the date. We looked at our district calendar, we didn't see anything that conflicted on that date, so that looks to be our potential date. I'll give you a more formal notice of that, but if you see anything, have any input, let me know. But the committee is just starting to meet now and prepare. Appreciate the runway on this too, because this will allow us from a sponsorship standpoint. Remember last year we had some good sponsorship, and there was some for the city and some for the schools. So we'll look to that and have plenty of room there. So again, July 5th or 10th date. They're giving the board updates on residency. I wanted to let you know we still focus on trying to make sure anyone who is attending our schools is a resident of our school district. One of the things we think is the next step, we have the residency officer, which I previously discussed. We have some active residency investigations ongoing. We're going to have an anonymous tip line that we're going to be releasing later this month too. So if people have concerns about residency, we can look at those. There's a paper screening process or a digital process we go through first, and if there's concerns, we work with the family, and then we also have our residency officers. So more to come on that, but again, the big thing this month will be releasing the information about anonymous reporting if you have concerns. A couple other things I want to cover. Last week, snow day on Friday. Really want to thank the road crews. I don't think they get enough support for that, but did a lot of good work. When we work closely with our municipalities, and I don't know if people really understand the process on this, but there's an allocation of hours typically, and they can work so many hours before they reach a limit, either financially and also just from being tired. And when we delay or close school, they'll factor that into the model as well too. So if we don't consume that earlier in the day, they can spread out and focus, that throughout the day. So we really do appreciate their efforts. I think we closed school and then they had an opportunity to focus their efforts in other areas, and then it progressively got better through the day. The sun helped a bit too. So thank you. One of the natural things happen, people will ask us, okay, what about tomorrow with all the ice, right? Like I have the same prognostication skills as everyone else, right? I have the same information. So we'll watch the ice and see what happens with that. But freezing rain is supposed to be a potential concern tonight. Could be here as early as 6 when we get outside. We'll see what it looks like and see if it's coming or not. And it could be that it doesn't happen or it happens later. If you look at the last Friday snow day, we were convinced we were supposed to get, the forecast was an inch or two in the early evening, so we were all lined up and ready to go. I talked to the area superintendents. We had CTEC ready, and we were potentially going to call it the night before, but we didn't get any snow appreciably, so that's the way it happened. So know that we'll be watching for tomorrow morning, and then I think it's clear sailing for a little bit of time, but we'll see.
My son has assured me that Dr. Wagner never cancels school. That's what he tells me. So.
Well, there was Friday.
I know.
Okay.
This was
Yes,
Thursday.
People have amnesia
look,
sometimes, but there was Friday. I believe the week before we had a delay as well too, right? Okay.
If it was up to him, we'd cancel pretty much every day. So.
Yeah. It's a tough process, and it's one that it's kind of
And not to get way into the weeds on these, but there's no matter what happens, no matter what decision Dr. Wagner makes, we're going to get calls and concerns because there's child care issues. If we do cancel, there's child care issues. If we don't cancel, there's parents that can drop their kids off on their way to work. And if we do a 2-hour delay, they run into issues there. So it doesn't work for everyone. So that's why when Dr. Wagner makes these decisions, it's purely based off the safety of the roadway and getting to and from school. We can't look at every individual student and make that decision because it's not a one-size-fits-all decision. So Dr. Wagner goes back and we trust him to make those decisions for the best for the school district. So I do want to tell the parents out there, I get a lot of emails on that topic, and some say thank you, some say no thank you, and others say, that no matter what decision he makes, it's problematic. A lot of, and I will say I probably get the most complaints when we do 2-hour delays. That's very difficult on a lot of the working parents out there. So that's a tough decision as well. So normally, talking to Dr. Wagner on these, when we go into 2-hour delays, it's because something is significantly going to change within that 2 hours, meaning the fog is going to clear. Yeah, the roads are going to be better because they've had time to work. So a lot of these decisions are based on what time the snow or rain or ice comes. It's not just that we got 4 inches of snow. It's what time, and did the road crews have time enough to respond? And for those folks, Friday, obviously, it started snowing early in the morning, and the roads were pretty bad. By 10 a.m., if you don't go to work till 10, you've probably left your house and went, well, these roads aren't bad at all. I don't know why they canceled school today. So you have to really understand the time. Dr. Wagner's out there at 5 o'clock in the morning making that decision because that's when the buses turn on. When we're really starting things up, that decision gets made that early in the morning. So we don't have the ability of hindsight at 8 o'clock to go, well, we probably could have or shouldn't have. That decision's made on the judgment at 5 a.m. So I do thank you for, I know it's never easy making those decisions, no matter how it turns out. So thank you.
Sometimes, like if you look at a week ago, or it was last Tuesday, it snowed and it wasn't expected to snow that much. And all things being equal, I would have delayed school had we known, but it was supposed to be a dusting and we got about 1.5 inches, and you can't, when the buses are rolling, unless you're going to turn them around, those are tough decisions. But, I honestly think people think I have more information than I do, but we're operating. The other thing I would just add, and I appreciate your comments, Mr. Swager, is that we'll get compared to other school districts too. And it's not my place to talk about other school districts, but I know last week, for example, there was a school that closed, and they closed because they had problems with their HVAC system in 2 buildings, and they were honestly short bus drivers because of illness. I think they had COVID and flu running through their department. But I can't tell if people about that, but those, they were close. So there's just a lot of comparison that goes on, but we'll always do what's best for Johnstown. Make sure we do the best we can with that. I'll keep everyone updated. Just put a bow on that topic. I will tell people the first I know something, I'll put it on the email so I copy all the staff members and let them know, especially those who travel. It's the first thing I can do because I'm not going to call people like on Friday morning before, I think it was like 10 of 5 in the morning. I'm not going to give people notice that early, but email's the first time that we get things done. Kind of staying on theme with inclement weather and disruptions, I do want to thank everyone for their support today. We had that unexpected gas main break and electrical. Always believe that your systems are tested not on a day-to-day, but when there's a challenge or sometimes a crisis, and everyone did well. Mrs. Wagner did a great job. Douglas was there with the team, Mr. McDonald, the rest of the administrative team. So we had different plans organized. There was a point in time today where we didn't know if they were going to open up the streets in time, and we had a go, no-go time, and we were going to actually have to transfer students off the campus there because we couldn't get cars and buses through, so we were going to work on a plan. Monroe Fire Department, I didn't want to say too much before, but you brought it up. Mrs. Thomas, tremendous job. Mrs. Wagner and I talked to their command. We went down to the site, back, down to the site, and just tremendous support there, a lot of back and forth. So I'm glad everything went well. And I think the Monroe Township made it look easy, but there was a lot of complications, especially dealing with natural gas leak like that. And electrical, quite honestly, and the order of trying to get the gas capped and then look at the electrical. So just that's the end of my report. So.
All right, thank you. Anything additional from anyone? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second. Call the roll.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Benton,
Yes.
Mr. Swager.
Yes. Thank you and good evening.